Hi, I'm Maggie, and today we're at Carmelo's in Covington, and we're gonna go behind the recipe with Chef Mitch Arens. Come on. Welcome to our first ever Behind the Recipe. Each month, we're going behind the scenes of the local chef to learn how their recipes came to be and what makes them unique. This month, we're stopping by Carmelo's to hear from Chef Mitch Arens. Carmelo's menu features hallmarks of Italian red sauce classics like spaghetti and meatballs, eggplant parmesan, Caesar salad, and calamari. Now, let's hear from the chef.
Mitch Arens, chef owner here at Carmelo's in Covington. Business partner Billy and I worked together at Nada 18 years ago, and kind of always talked about doing our own thing, and finally able to make it happen.
I want you to tell me your personal favorite dish you have here.
That's a tough question. I get asked that a lot. I feel I joke around and tell people it's kind of like picking a favorite kid. But I think our menu overall, we kind of really leaned into like the comfort, nostalgia of things. One of my favorite stories about that is our eggplant parmesan. So the first time I ever had eggplant as a kid, I was probably 8-10 years old, and my parents took us to F&N Steakhouse. It used to be over in Dayton, Kentucky, and they were famous for their eggplant fries. That was the first time I ever had it, and I can still remember like tasting it for the first time. It was something different, unique that I had never had before, and kind of intimidated to try it like most kids are. Fast forward 30 years, and we're kind of an immigrant Italian, red sauce Italian spot, and I don't feel like you can have one of those without having a great Parmesan. We wanted to do something different than the typical like round circles that you have, and talking to my mom about it, and she did some research and found an old placemat from F&N Steakhouse, and on the placemat they had printed on the bottom of the recipe their recipe for their eggplant fries. So they bread them with a little bit of cracker crumbs, and that sweetness kind of balances the bitterness of the eggplant. We tested a couple versions with that and just love the way that it turned out. So I just think it's really fun to have those kind of taste memories to bring you back to something as a child. And then, it also turned out to be the best version of all the different ones that we made.
All right, I know you can't give us the full recipe, but can you give us a little bit of a breakdown of how it's actually made?
Yeah. So the eggplant naturally has a lot of water, and it also can be a little bitter. So we take the whole eggplants, peel them, cut it into wedges. We take those wedges and lightly season them with salt, and that pulls out some of the moisture, kind of intensifies the eggplant flavor, and it also pulls a little bit of that bitterness out. And then we bread those and fry them. We do our homemade red sauce on it with Italian tomatoes and our fresh pulled mozzarella, a little bit of crushed herbs and Parmesan, and that's the dish.
So what is, I would say, your best-selling recipe?
Best-selling dish is our oxtail. Our oxtail ragu is our number one selling dish day after day. I know in the beginning you were really paying attention to that, what was selling, what people were liking, and day after day, almost double or triple other dishes sometimes.
Really?
So yeah, it's really neat, and the cool thing about that too is we like to support local as much as possible, and we use a berry beef, it's called. It's a Kentucky Black Angus beef. So we get our oxtail and our shanks from them, and use that to braise. And it's another childhood memory. My mom used to make a lot of pot roast growing up, and we would eat the leftover pot roast with buttered noodles, sometimes. So having that braised pot roast meat over noodles, it's just such a great flavor combination, so comforting. We had a little bit of red wine and some fresh oregano to kind of elevate it a little bit, but it's definitely a big crowd pleaser.
Why do you think it is such a crowd pleaser? Why do people think people go to it?
I think it's unique and exciting enough where people want to try something different. I think our staff is also really excited about it, so I think it gets recommended a lot. And I think, when you tell somebody pot roast, I think that you can't go wrong with some simple braised meat and good cheese and homemade pasta.
So you guys have been around for a year. How many changes have been made to the menu?
It'll be a year in October. It's crazy. It's sneaking up on us. So I actually just finished up a meeting with our chefs about some new menu changes. Menu changed right before we opened. We had a whole menu that we had tested and planned and ended up knocking off about 6 or 8 dishes literally the week before we opened to kind of start a little smaller and make sure that we were focusing on what we were doing and doing it right. And so we've slowly added some of those dishes back in and grown the menu a little bit. We switched a couple dishes out, but we haven't really hit every season yet. So, we'll probably change it 2 or 3 times a year, and then there's a few iterations. We had a delicious striped bass that we were doing in the beginning, and then we weren't able to find a good sustainable source on that anymore, so we had to switch that to a redfish. So there'll be things like that happen kind of all the time, but then we also want to change with the seasons. Keep it fun and interesting for the people that do come often, so they have new things to try. Yeah, seasonality is key, and especially if you are local. I mean, we're in the Midwest, so our growing seasons are very defined. I lived in Louisiana for 8 years, and their growing season there is completely different. You get great tomatoes in May, and they're all here all the way till November and December, and corn, same thing, those types of things. So I think cooking seasonally, and especially if you're using local, you have to kind of adapt with the time.
All right, my last question is, what would be your favorite, most recommended cocktail that you guys have?
The Appalachian Sour.
Okay.
Yeah. So Billy, my business partner, is really into Italian bitter liqueurs, Amaros and Campari, and all those different Aperol, and that was something that took a little time for me to adjust to. It's not something I enjoyed as much, but I distinctly remember during our R&D tasting this cocktail and how incredible it was. And then when he told me that there was a Fernet in it, which is something that I've always kind of pushed away, I was blown away. It's super well balanced. It's not a quote unquote local, but it's a regional, so it's made from a Fernet out of Asheville. Most of them are from Europe, and so to do something again kind of regionally local is really cool to support a small business like that. But it's refreshing, but it's also kind of hearty. I feel like it's one of those cocktails that you can drink all year round, and it's great in the summer, it's great in the winter. So that's my number one recommended. And then after that would probably be the spaghetti, which is basically an Aperol spritz with High Life.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It is. It's great.
Oh wait, I have one more question I thought of. Okay, if you were coming here just as yourself to eat, what would your order be?
Fresh mozzarella. I think that dish, especially at a table, to get that big cheese pool and have the fresh bread that we grill to order, it's just such a fun wow dish. Our meatballs are something I tell everybody they have to try. And again, like being a chef and working in a kitchen, you taste and try the food so often that some things just you don't want to try or taste anymore and you get sick of. And I think I could eat a meatball every day for the rest of our life. I love our meatballs. I love our Caesar salad. And then probably the shrimp pasta. It's kind of an ode to Louisiana. When I lived down there, I did a spicy shrimp ragu on one of the menus when I was a chef down there. So this is kind of our version of it here. So I love that dish. It's got a special place for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Absolutely. Great to see you.